What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the future beyond Scream 7 and why I believe it'll absolutely happen. There'll be more Scream movies. Now, this is kind of a twofold thing. Number one, I think this is just a general discussion that people have had, and I'm sure, once Scream 7 starts to get going, you're going to hear a lot more about it leading into the movie, the press of the movie, when the movie actually happens, right? Because you got to figure out what to do really with these two over here and end their story or continue them on to Scream 8 or whatever. But you are, I assume, going to get some pretty interesting tidbits of the future past 7, whether it's even with radio silence or not, right? And we started to hear that stuff even in the post-launch of Scream 6 as a film. We started to hear questions of, well, do you intend to write these movies for a long time? Do you intend to be the directors, even of this trilogy and then past this trilogy? So that's one reason I want to talk about. The other reason, though, has been these kind of back and forth rumors that have been floating around the internet, and one group of them was talking about this ending of the Scream franchise and that it would end at Scream 7. I think that's a load of garbage. I absolutely don't believe, at least that specific. We've talked about a lot of different rumors online. That specific one, I absolutely think is not going to happen for the simple fact. So let's start. Why will this movie franchise not end after 7? Because of money. What other reason would there actually be? Hollywood keeps itself alive by, I guess, probably sucking the souls out of people firstly, but secondly, through primary money. And this franchise, and actually not even just the Scream franchise, but you're seeing it with the horror genre in general. It started before Scream 6. You could maybe even say Scream 5 was one of the first things that kind of kicked it off. You think of the world kind of shutting down, and then when it starts to open, movie theaters not doing very well, a lot of movies being bombs, a lot of superhero movies, but also just movies in general with the biggest budgets you've ever seen in your life. Indiana Jones, I guess, could be an example. And then they make not even close to the money back, and they lose these studios hundreds of millions of dollars. Sometimes I take great joy in that, like with Indiana Jones and like with The Flash, but that's a side story. What you have seen is the horror franchise has seemingly been immune to this kind of economic issue that's going on in the world, which there definitely is, or the dying of cinemas that's going on, which there definitely is. Horror, for whatever reason, and again, like Scream 5 did fantastic, but you didn't really know, right? I mean, we talked about it leading up to Scream 5, when Scream 5 came out, after Scream 5. You can't fully study it because it was so early in movie theaters kind of opening up again that you didn't really know how Scream 5 was going to do, I guess, leading in. And then even when Scream 5 did well, you could say, well, can Scream 6 do better? Is that kind of the max? You can think of inflation, all this kind of stuff. So that was the talk around town, but you see it with everything. We just had Insidious, which look, and I've said this before, right? Like, Scream is my thing. I really don't have any interest in jumping into talking about other horror franchises. I don't really care. I've watched the first Insidious and that's it. It was a really good movie, but like even that movie, what the budget was, 15-20 million. It's already made like 115 at the time I'm recording this. It'll probably make more by the time you see it. These movies are doing insane. Megan, the Black Phone, like all Smile, was it Smile, the one where she literally smiles? All these movies are making really hundreds of million, at least like 100 million plus, right, of dollars, and they're making it off of nothing. Absolutely nothing, because they get, I guess, not necessarily like cheap talent, but under the radar talent. See, Jenna Ortega might be a pretty big problem with that, and Scream kind of in general, because these people are starting to become stars. You want to look for the ones that are kind of like under the radar. You can pay them very, very little, and then if you need to pay them a lot, you can't keep all of them, so you have to kill some. I mean, there's some issues there, right? But these movies make so much money. I mean, it's an incredibly long way of me saying this. I'm not trying to stretch the video out on purpose, but it's a long way of me saying these movies make so much money. And we saw it with Scream 5. We saw it even more with Scream 6. And we've also just seen it as an industry. The horror genre has done such an incredible job. So I ask the rumor people and all this stuff that have said, oh, the movie's going to stop after 7. Why in God's name would that happen? Okay, why would you ever stop it? Now, by the way, and this is a very important, I think, time to throw this in, should the franchise end and will the franchise end are two different questions, okay? Let me make that very, very clear. In fact, again, we've talked about, but sometimes people forget this stuff when they leave comments, right? Should the franchise stop? Well, that is a question about the quality, about if you told the story that you needed to tell, on if the characters have reached their natural conclusion, like that stuff, right? And you can go down a long path of that one. I think there are still more stories to tell. I think you can keep it going, but there is a natural limit. There is, I guess, the idea of going overboard and doing too much, keeping characters around for too long, whatever it may be, okay? There is that. But that's not what we're talking about. And the rumors I've seen, or kind of the debate that's always been online, I guess, over the last year and a half, even since Scream 5, they're two different things. Will the franchise continue? Yes, because it makes so much money. You can reboot it. You're going to run into issues eventually, because you're going to have to say, okay, well, is this always going to be tied to the past? Are you always going to be, I know people have said, or people have opinions on the respect level or disrespect level towards like Gale or Sidney, even in like the last couple. I get that. I think generally this franchise is about as respectful to the past as you get nowadays. Look to Disney for how to not respect the past. So I do understand people that say like Gale was done dirty in 6 or Sidney in 5 or whatever. I understand those concerns, but when you see what Snow White looks like, or you see Indiana Jones, you see this stuff, or you see the idea of future Pirates of the Caribbean movies without Johnny Depp, that is the not right way of doing it. And although Scream isn't perfect, at least they do it somewhat. So I guess where I'm coming from is eventually you are going to have issues. Eventually you are going to have to say, well, do we always want to tie ourselves to the past and keep this lineage thing going? Again, as I said in the beginning of the video, you have to make a decision on them. You already have such a legacy cast that radio silence, and see, this is part of the potential, I guess, problem going forward. Radio silence is respectful to the sense that they've said before that, hey, as long as these people want to keep being in the movies, we'll write them in. So you can have Kirby maybe forever. Now, there should be a time where those characters, you got to, it's a horror movie, people have to die, that kind of saying and stuff, right? But that mindset is like, okay, well, you're willing to keep Nev and Courtney and Hayden and all them, but now you're going to have another era, this era, and then you're going to probably want to do it again for like 8. But on top of all that, you don't even know if it's the same writers that'll be writing 8 or the same directors. So it could be a different feel on the franchise. They may not be as respectful or care as much about Wes Craven, or, you know what I mean? We'll have to see how that all kind of shakes out. Those are all very big potential issues. Again, those are the things of should it continue. You can debate those issues with should it continue. But ultimately, and maybe sadly, that's not what this is about. Will it continue? It absolutely will, because you can keep these things under, yes, like obviously back in the day, Scream 3 kind of had that issue. You look even to Scream 4. Scream 4, though, the box office just, I don't know what in God's name happened with that one. But if you can keep these budgets 30, 35, 40 million or less, now a lot of these, like the Insidiouses of the world, they can maybe do it for like 10 or 15 million. That's even better. Scream a little bit more expensive, right? But if you can keep this thing at around 30 or less, and you make 100, and we've talked about all these kind of numbers, right? 100 is maybe just a little bit too low. It's probably not as much revenue as you'd like to see. But if you can get to that 110, 20, 30 mark every time, again, let me ask you, why would you ever, as these executives who they have no souls, they don't care, they only care about the money, why would they stop? It's probably the easiest revenue source in all of Hollywood. Superhero movies are no longer the easiest one. Remakes are absolutely not the easiest anymore. These big IPs, bringing them back are not the easy. Really, none of the things that used to be easy money makers, partly because they've done it themselves. Remakes should not be this difficult, but they have made them difficult. A lot of these things they've done to themselves. The only thing that's really, again, been immune to that is horror. For whatever reason, and probably because of the budget, you just have to have some sort of slick idea, something a little new, maybe even not all that good, and you make it for 10, 15, 20 million. Suddenly you make, even if you make 60 or 70, that's more profit. If you think about it, if you think about this, let me throw this out here just to end the video, because this kind of blows my mind. Think about The Flash and Indiana Jones, right? And I'm sure you can keep going throughout these movies. Elemental, right? All these movies that cost more than they really should have to make them, and they all didn't make money. Because they didn't make money, yes, they made more, than Scream in the box office. But like, think about how the profit, Scream made profit more than any of those films. Scream made more money than Indiana Jones did. And when you say that, you say, well, no, it didn't, because Indiana Jones, doubled in the box office. Yeah, but they lost like $100 million. Scream made them that, you know what I mean? So that's how crazy it is, I guess, in Hollywood. Just to kind of put in perspective, Scream will not end at 7. There will 1,000% be more. Will certain cast members be in it? Maybe, maybe not. Will the directors and writers be in it? Maybe, maybe not. But there absolutely will be a Scream 8, I would say. Let me know what you think. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turn on. I hope to see you all on the next one.